Good evening. As we keep a close eye on the Riley and Montana Creek fires, meteorologist Jackie Purcell joins us now with the status of other wildfires burning across the state, as well as a first look at our forecast. Jackie?
Well, Joe, it certainly has been a run of dry, hot weather. That was last week. Now,
we haven't had an active large fire like this in the Denali entrance area for almost exactly 100 years.
The Denali National Park will remain closed through tomorrow as some people who say they've waited a lifetime to visit Alaska have their plans averted, and as firefighters from across the country battle the Riley fire that is burning hundreds of acres near the entrance to the park and preserve. We have a crew on the ground covering the Riley for us, and we'll hear from Lex Yelverton in just a few minutes. That wildfire has captured national attention. And while cooler, cloudy weather as well as water drops from aircraft slow the growth of the Riley fire, which erupted yesterday not far from businesses, hotels, and where a lot of tourists frequent, the blaze remains 0% contained. Hundreds of park staff, campers, and tourists remain under evacuation orders. A spokesperson with the National Park Service saying more than 100 workers are taking refuge. Anyone not already camping in the park will be turned around. All park facilities remain closed, as well as all front country trails in the park entrance closed. Fire crews continue to work to contain that blaze into the overnight hours. Multiple aircraft and smoke jumpers are responding to the fire with additional resources scheduled to arrive over the next couple of days. Cooler temperatures are expected today, and officials say that will help with the containment. Current fire size that's estimated at 350 acres. The state of Alaska has moved to the highest preparedness level, which is a level 5. Then we move to the Montana Creek fire, which is continuing to burn 172 acres that's 16 miles south of Talkeetna. Incident Commander Timothy Sherwin out of Wyoming saying that the fire is roughly 35 to 40% contained. Sherwin saying that the containment has been aided by hoses that have been set up around the fire's perimeter. Hoses are connected to pumps that are continuously filled by the Talkeetna Fire Department. 80 firefighters are battling that fire right now, which is consuming dry grass, brush, and black spruce. Federal, state, and local resources are on scene. Aircraft is dropping water, and retardant is slowing the spread of the cooling and cooling the perimeter. This is allowing crews to install hose lays where it's safe. Fire activity has caused a set alert status for area residents, which means an evacuation notice has not been issued. There has been confirmation that an outbuilding has been lost to that fire. We're heading back to the Denali National Park and Preserve, where we've had a crew on the ground since yesterday. Lex Yelverton has been closely monitoring that fire with officials and joins us now with the very latest.
The Riley fire is still active and not contained. As you can see, there's still smoke billowing up into the air in some areas as crews continue to work by ground and by air to work on some of those problem areas that are still active.
Again, the park remains closed through tomorrow, and fire crews from across the nation work to keep it from spreading to where people are. We also want to emphasize that we have not heard reports of injury from either the Riley or Montana fires, although there was an outbuilding destroyed, as we mentioned earlier, by the Montana fire. That's the Montana Creek fire. Keep a close eye at alaskasnewssource.com for the very latest on these developing situations. The Alaska Department of Transportation is reporting some stabilization as they continue working to widen an embankment on the Glen Highway that's near Sutton. They're working to complete their work with riprap to prevent further erosion to that stretch of highway. While the DOT says their work is limited from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, they're encouraging drivers to use caution as they pass by where the water is up to the roadway. This is at milepost 63.6. The department says they lost 50 feet of embankment in a 2-day stretch, and 10 inches disappeared in a matter of hours on Saturday. This is from the Matanuska River. Anchorage has a new mayor tonight. And after being sworn in as mayor, Suzanne LaFrance talked about how she feels there are brighter days ahead for Anchorage. The only mention of specifics during her inauguration speech came when the mayor talked about her appointed police chief and municipal attorney working on draft policies. In her view, the new mayor says over the next couple of weeks, the public should see details that ensure clear communication and building trust between APD and the community. Jane Anvik The widow of Vic Fisher, who was the last living signer of Alaska's Constitution before he died in October, talked about what it means to see a woman elected mayor in her lifetime.
But I believe it's really going to be important that we have the opportunity for a woman to be the mayor, so all the little girls in Anchorage can say, Mommy, I want to grow up and be the mayor.
And I really appreciate and am grateful for all the women who have made such strides and accomplishments. And I just felt so proud. It was, so moving to sit next to Jane Anvik and Austin Quinn Davidson. And so I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity.
Now, Austin Quinn Davidson was the interim mayor of Anchorage, but was not elected to office. And LaFrance served 2 terms in the Anchorage Assembly, and she left as the chair of the Assembly. While the inauguration ceremony was taking place, there was a protest happening a few feet away. The Party of Socialism and Liberation called for a civilian oversight committee at LaFrance's inauguration. That group, they protested at the event for the release of body cam video footage from recent officer-involved shootings. The group sent a proposal for a civilian oversight committee to LaFrance and the Assembly today. Organizer Michael Patterson says he hopes the protest encourages her to begin new conversations with them.
We're waiting for a response, and we hope we get it soon, because basically there's a choice here. We can continue to show up and do things, or we can actually have a real professional conversation about how we're going to enact a civilian oversight regime.
LaFrance addressed the protest in her speech today, saying that she values the group's freedom of speech and is committed to listening to Anchorage residents. An update from APD on the officer-involved shooting investigation on East 20th Avenue that ended with 1 woman dead. The police department found that Sergeant Jonathan Butler shot the suspect, 58-year-old Lisa Fortis Blair, during that standoff. The shooting in the early hours of June 20th took place at the woman's home after a neighborhood dispute. This was the 4th officer-involved shooting of this year. The state medical examiner's office is working to identify remains after troopers say a body was found floating in the water over the weekend outside Ialik Bay near Chiswell Islands. That's about 30 miles south of Seward. AST says a charter fishing boat spotted the body, and the National Park Service, as well as troopers, they were both on scene, and this was reported to the Department of Public Safety at about 7:26 on Saturday morning. Troopers also saying they found a man dead under an ATV over the weekend in Nunam-Ikwa, which is northwest of St. Mary's. AST says 38-year-old Daniel Johnson was found under the machine at about 5:45 Saturday night. Troopers in Imanik say Johnson was riding the ATV up a steep gravel mound when it flipped and pinned him underneath it. His body was taken to the state medical examiner's office in Anchorage. Up next on the news at 10, the nation's highest court rules that former President Trump is at least partially shielded from prosecution for alleged crimes while he was in office. Plus, welcome back. Major news out of the U.S. Supreme Court today. The nation's highest court ruling that former President Donald Trump is partially shielded from prosecution surrounding alleged crimes committed while he was in office. Mike Ross spoke with reporter Molly Martinez at our Washington, D.C. bureau to get more insights about this historic decision.
So, Molly, run through the ruling for us. What does it say and what does it not say?